Yeah, I think the good news is that we're targeting to get the pool reopen. I think on the 2nd of August, I think is the current handover date that's been targeted and planned. So provided there aren't any more hiccups or unexpected delays, that's the date for handover. And then the actual opening of the pool to the public will be very shortly afterwards, hopefully a week or so after that.
And that's because of training and testing the facility to make sure
it's just
it's
making
watertight.
Exactly, making sure that everything's spick and span and there aren't any leaks, really. That's the main area, is just to make sure that everyone's got the right training, all the equipment's in place. And like I said, the plan is to have it fully open, the main pool at least. The downside, obviously, is that part of the pool, specifically the flumes and the leisure pool, won't be open. So what we're going to be doing is opening the main pool and splitting that really between the dedicated swimming and the more fun stuff that normally goes on down the NSC.
Well, speaking of fun stuff, there isn't any for the summer holidays again in terms of the leisure pool and the water slides.
Yeah, like I said, the leisure pool itself won't be open, but we're going to try and replicate the kind of activities that go on in the leisure pool in the main pool. So there will be the fun activities going on down there for people. The downside, obviously, is that the flumes, the slides won't be open, and they're going to have to be segregated off, really, for the time being.
We've asked what the problem is. We don't get an answer. It can't be a state secret. What is the issue?
I'm happy to share that with you. Obviously, we were planning originally to open the pool just shortly before TT. There were some delays with the way the flumes had been manufactured, so they didn't quite work for us. There was some rectification work that went on to correct all that. Unfortunately, then there were also issues with the way that the staircase had been manufactured. So there's compliance issues with that, and so the challenge is we actually don't have a staircase that we can install and properly use. So we had to go back to the original supplier of that, the manufacturer, and engage in some negotiations around actually can we get the problems fixed. So really, it is something that is out of our control to some extent.
You've said that the flume wasn't produced in the right way by the manufacturer. Was it ordered in the right way?
As far as I know, everything's been ordered properly. It's all been done correctly. So the issue, for example, with the staircase is a question around standards compliance. So does the staircase that was provided actually comply with the standards that we specified in the tender documentation? That's the query we're trying to resolve at the moment. So it is slightly more complex.
How's that issue arisen in the first place? Shouldn't that have been sorted right from the start?
Well, I suppose it's like when you place an order with anyone, you tell them what you're after and you expect them to deliver on exactly what it is you've requested. And sometimes mistakes happen somewhere down the line, somewhere down the chain of production perhaps. I don't know where that error has happened, but as far as the department's concerned, the tender documentation was quite specific, and like I say, these things have quite a long lead in time. They're quite specialist equipment that gets manufactured specifically for us. So when it's been delivered, it turns out that it isn't exactly what we were anticipating.
What is it about government projects at the moment and getting things on time? Because it just doesn't seem to happen.
Yeah, it is.
The promenade's already 8 months behind, we're told.
It is a concern.
We've got a very tight schedule for the Liverpool landing stage for that to be operational. It doesn't instill confidence that will happen.
No, that's very true, and I think the problem with this actually is slightly out of your hands. Like I say, when you order anything, you expect it to be manufactured and delivered to the spec that you ask for, and sometimes that doesn't happen. So then you have to go through a process trying to rectify that and get the product that you originally were looking for. I think the local contractors have been really good in this respect. I think the guys on site have been great, and I think we're all suffering from these problems that really are at the end of that supply chain.
There's been talk that 2 project leads have departed during the time. Are you able to confirm that?
I can't. I've not been that close with the operational detail, so I can't confirm that, unfortunately.
What respect, Tim?
The people that were installing the facility, the flumes.
I don't know that. I don't have that information. I'm afraid, no.
So when are we looking at having all this resolved finally?
That, unfortunately, is the complex question. So this is why we're trying to get as much of the pool and the facility open as possible as soon as we can. Because this issue is to do with manufacture and standards compliance, it could be quite some time, unfortunately, before we manage to get the manufacturers to produce and supply and deliver the right equipment for us.
In the meantime, Paul, if I can bring you in here,
Sure.
How has Manx Sport and Recreation and the department divvied up the classes that normally take place and now haven't for the best part of, well, it will be a year?
There's been an awful lot of provision that's continued to happen. So lots of activities.
But not all of it.
No, clearly if all of it could have happened, then you could argue, what happens in the NSC or indeed anywhere else. But no, we've been able to transfer a number of the activities and the number of the provision to Ballacameen Pool, and the relationship we've got with Ballacameen has been excellent, and they've hosted our early birds swimming session for swimmers before work, because clearly the school is not open at that time. When the school is open, they've obviously had their own swimming provision for the school to participate in. And then in the evenings, we've taken that pool space and run our swimming lessons as we would have done at the NSC. Clearly not to the same extent and the same numbers, because the pool is significantly smaller. But where we've been able to get some provision, those classes have continued. As well, we've worked very closely with our partners at the regional swimming pools.
Have they had a big uptake?
Absolutely. I met with them this morning, as I do throughout the year. We work closely together. They're reporting significant increases in attendances all across the island. They've been absolutely fantastic, and I'd like to take this opportunity to place on record my thanks, and on behalf of the department, our thanks to the cooperation of those regional swimming pools. Who've managed to take additional bookings. They've had the Isle Swimming Squad move a lot of their sessions there. Obviously, their swimming lesson programme has increased as a result of the closure. So yeah, whilst the NSC has been closed, we did have quite a comprehensive plan in place prior to the closure. Clearly, we would like to have been open earlier than now. But those plans have just rolled on and continued. So actually, there's been no additional loss of provision as a result of the delayed opening of the NSC main pool.
What about the national swimming team? Because their home is the NSC. They train there regularly. It was ahead of a major event for them. They did well out there, but it could have had an impact. We just won't know. I mean, it's how long's a piece of string, but it isn't ideal, is it, for a national team?
No, but what I would say in response to that is that the National Sports Centre is one pool that the Isle Swimming Squad used. They also use the other swimming pools because, of course, their participants that make up that squad live all around the island. So if they only ever train in Douglas, you've got to think about the young people who live in the other parts of the island. So, and I believe it's the right thing to do, is that they have training sessions ordinarily when the NSC pool has been open at all of those regional swimming pools as well as the National Sports Centre. So in that respect, they were able to find additional space that where they would have been in the NSC at one or two of the regional pools, to ensure they still had this kind of as close to the same level as provision as possible. Just to kind of extend to that question. When the department was discussing and considering when the pool was going to close for this refurbishment, we looked at all the different key user groups of the pool, and a key user group was the Swimming Association, the Isle Swimming Association, and indeed their talented and elite swimmers. And the reason why we actually delayed part of this project and did it at a slightly later date than we discussed was because the Commonwealth Games were going to take place, and we didn't want to close prior to the Commonwealth Games. So because of the nature and the extent of the refurbishment, we always knew it was going to be many, many months. There was never going to be an ideal time, but I'd like to think we took into account their wishes and their priorities, which was the Commonwealth Games. Clearly, we then had to close at some point between an Island Games, which was obviously every 2 years, so that preparation was never going to be ideal. But I hope, and I think, and congratulations to the swimmers and the Isle Swimming Association for the number of medals that they've won out in Gibraltar. It would appear to me that they've continued the great success they've had over the last several Island Games, and I didn't see too much of a drop-off. In fact, if any drop-off, I kept reading about new personal bests, new Manx records, more and more gold medals.
What about the staff then at the NSC who normally would have been working there at the pool? What's happened to them in the past year?
So we employ a large number of casual employees, and sadly I had to write to those in advance of the pool closure, and they were told obviously there would be no employment for a period of time during the closure. They were casual 0-hour contracts employees. For our full-time staff, we've clearly still operated at Ballacameen Pool, and still needs staffing in that provision. We've operated at Glencrutchery Pool for some classes as well, and that needed staffing. We had discussions and agreements with the regional pools where staff went and supplemented their own teams of staff. And we encouraged the staff who were, to take leave during the period. One or two took extended leave, unpaid leave, because they wanted to explore other options. We've done an extensive amount of training and personal development across other parts of the National Sports Centre. Remember, the swimming pool is just one part.
Does this mean, though, that you're going to have to recruit staff now?
We've already done it.
Already done?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What about the cost?
The cost of the scheme, 4.2 million.
I mean,
think-
the cost
think
of the
was.
scheme and loss of revenue to the NSC while the closure's been in place.
Yeah, all that was factored in when the original scheme was put forward with the capital bid. We did factor in a loss of income, expected loss of income. It's been offset slightly by increase in income at the regional pools, obviously, because the department still funds them through a subvention or a subsidy. So there has been a drop off, but like I say, that was all factored in really at the start of the capital process.
The regional pool in your constituency, though, are having to wait, aren't they, to get their work done until this work at the National Sports Centre is done. So it's had a ripple effect.
It has, and not just this piece of work actually. Within the department, we have a very limited number of staff dealing with capital works, and so when you have a couple of big projects going on, we've got the St Mary's renovation, we're planning for Castle Rushen, we're trying to work out at QE2, we've got the NSC, and everything's going on. And actually, some things which are much lower down on the list tend to get lose priority, unfortunately. And you're right, the delays here have had a knock-on effect on the rest of the capital plans the department has, which is quite disappointing, but it's something you have to work through. I'm quite pleased that we are working through it. The department's priority at the moment is getting the NSC, as much of the NSC, open as quickly as possible, back up and running.
It's been a rough time for your department in the last couple of weeks, and okay, there's a lot of publicity about the minister at the moment and about what happened in Tynwald, but the biggest public reaction is the pool. Can we have the pool open?
Yeah, and
it matters to people, doesn't it?
It
out
does,
there?
and it's understandable. I mean, it's a massive facility. It's a great facility, and it's disappointing when you can't access that facility. I think the key thing, really, for me, is that the refurbishment is a significant and complex project, and it is going to deliver a massively enhanced experience, I think, for a lot of people, especially the regular users of the pool. So when the pool itself is back open, which, like I said, should be the week after the 2nd of August, is what we're targeting. When that's back open, I think people will see an improvement there, and then when we do get the rest of the facility back open, I think it will be quite well received, but it is just getting us through that hump now of trying to get through these negotiations with the supplier to make sure we get the equipment on site, get it installed properly, make sure it's all safe and it's all been installed properly, and that everyone's really fully trained, and that the pool's open as much as possible, as quickly as possible for the general public.
So we can write off the summer holidays, but what about half-term, Christmas holidays? You're going to nail your colours to the mast?
Unfortunately, I can't. Like I say, the intention is to get the pool open as quickly as possible and provide that split kind of leisure and dedicated swimming session, so that the facility is open for as many people as possible. When it comes to actually resolving, like I said, there are technical issues to do with the way that some of the products have been manufactured, and there's not a lot we can do to speed that up. It's really in the hands of the teams that are dealing with the installation and the manufacture of those systems.